Town of Waxhaw Board of Commissioners. If you would, please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Standing for a brief moment of silence. And as you're standing, on behalf of the entire town of Waxhaw, I wish to extend our deepest sympathies to our friend and partner, Sheriff Cathy, with the passing of his wife, Ann, on Monday. We have one change to the agenda. We're moving new business item 4 from the agenda. Just so everybody's clear, the intent is to have a work session shortly on that and bring forward for adoption the first meeting in January. Everybody understands the importance of that and the value of the agreement and the partnership we have with WAA. For 3 board members, it's the first time they've ever seen anything on the Waxhaw Athletic Association, and so we just need a little bit of time to digest it and go through it and have a good dialogue about it. But beyond that, are there any other changes to the agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the revised agenda. All those in favor? Aye. We have nobody signed up for public comments, and so at this time I'll entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to recognition. First up, we have U.S. Secret Service Award, and I'm going to call up Eric Trzaski. You can just take the microphone.
Good evening. My name is Eric Trzaski. I'm a special agent with the United States Secret Service stationed here in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'd like to thank the mayor, board, town manager, Chief Ice for allowing me to speak today. Most people know that the Secret Service protects the President of the United States, but many who do not know, we also investigate cases of missing and exploited children and provide child safety resources to children and families. Our Childhood Smart program provides presentations and other materials to help teach students how to be safe online and offline. The Childhood Smart program was created in partnership with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children to help educate parents and children about computer and personal safety. The child safety experts at NCMEC have created educational resources for parents and students. The Secret Service has the longest standing law enforcement relationship with NCMEC and helps disseminate these resources to schools and communities across the nation. Over the summer and in the months since, the Secret Service had the opportunity to partner with the Waxhaw Police Department. Your officers saw an opportunity to provide additional resources to the children of Waxhaw through our Childhood Smart program. This partnership allowed us to teach several internet safety classes to local students and at no cost to the parents or schools provide over 500 child identification kits which safeguards important forensic information that could be used if a child was to become missing. These kits can be reproduced for distribution to federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies, saving valuable time when there is no time to spare. We would like to recognize Detective Ning, Officer Montalvo, and Officer Gasser for your efforts and superior contributions to the law enforcement responsibilities of the U.S. Secret Service. We look forward to continuing our partnership and working with you to keep our children safe.
Come on up, gentlemen. Okay, now all line up so we can get a picture.
Make sure you smile. Yes, you are. But small isn't bad.
Next up, Mr. Hubert, I understand you have some recognition for us.
Pruss here. Here we want to provide Dan with his 5-year service award. My understanding, when our previous chief building inspector retired, Dan was reluctant to take the position, and I'm not sure Dennis gave you a choice, but you know, we're glad that you did, because he's done an outstanding job since taking over. His technical knowledge is beyond reproach, and his professionalism has been fantastic. He's a great member of the team, and I'm proud to have him as a member of my department. So in appreciation of 5 years, you get a plaque.
And Dan, before you sit down, Saturday I happened to run into Representative Mark Brody over at Lowe's, and he tracked me down and he sought me out and said, you know, I'm hard on inspections, but Waxhaw, you know how to do it. You're tough but fair, and you're fast. So thank you for all that you do, and thank you for, it was great to get a compliment like that from Representative Brody.
Thank you, Mayor. It's an honor to serve. Thank you.
And before we get to a presentation, this came in last minute, and it's some recognition for the town. We are in receipt of a letter from the Fixing It for Christ mission team from Waxhaw United Methodist Church, offering up their thanks for all that the town of Waxhaw did. The work we did facilitated over 450 community volunteers in the work to try to provide for improvements to 20 homes for people in need. And they pass on from Jim Howie and Terry Barber. We're grateful for your interest in our project and are in hopes that you will partner with us again next year. From all of us that worked as a team, we want to take this opportunity to say that we are truly appreciative of the town of Waxhaw and deeply grateful for your interest, support, and participation. So kudos to the town of Waxhaw for their participation. Now, Ginger Snap 5K review, Jill Conley. Don't show the amount yet. Okay. Hide it, hide
I
it.
expect a drum roll this year, for sure. Good evening, everybody. I am the race director for the Ginger Snap 5K. It's an annual 5K event that takes place right down here in downtown Waxhaw. This year was our 9th annual event, and each year all the benefits proceed Girls on the Run of Union County. I'm going to ask Bonnie Grote to come up. She's the council director of Union County, just to explain a little bit about what Girls on the Run does and what their mission is here in the local community.
Hi. Girls on the Run is a 501c nonprofit organization offered to 3rd through 8th grade girls. So it's a curriculum-based program that installs fun running and healthy living and lifestyle, and they, at the end, train to do a 5K. So we do 2 seasons a year, and one of them, thanks to Town of Waxhaw and to Jill with the Ginger Snap, we do our end of the season 5K at the Ginger Snap. So this year we had over 650 girls in the program and about 130 volunteer coaches. We're out there along with, you can, I guess, give the rest of the numbers?
That's it, yeah.
Okay.
So this year was our best event to date. From when it started, it's humble beginnings, which the mayor was involved at the beginning of that. Elise and Tripp from Snap Fitness, a local company here, developed the race, wanted to do something to give back to the community, and then I took it over a few years ago. It has grown every year. Quite a bit, and this year we saw, on top of the Girls on the Run participants, this is a timed event. We invite the local community to come out and participate with it. So between our volunteers and the Girls on the Run crowd and the participants that signed up to be timed, we had well over 2,000 people. We probably pushed close to 2,200 people that are out there in the morning. And the town has always graciously partnered with us and done a fantastic job giving us all the support we need to make sure that it's a fun event, but that it's a safe event. It's amazing amazing how we get that many people down there in such a short, compressed amount of time, and it goes off seamlessly. So major thank you to everybody with the town of Waxhaw for helping us and supporting us to do that event. I'd like to introduce Dr. Walker, who many know. So Connolly Orthodontics is the presenting sponsor for the 5K, and then Novant Health. Both practices over at Novant Health here across the way are a supporting sponsor. So we kind of do the 1-2 approach and bring it on home for the sponsorships for Ginger Snap 5K. So I'd like to ask Dr. Walker to come up and help me present the check to Girls on the Run. So this year, you're going to get our drum roll? This year, we raised $29,000 to give. Oh, yeah. Is it a bigger number upside down? Because we'll go with that. So $29,000. Bonnie, come on up and get your check. So what this money is actually used for is Girls on the Run never denies any girl participation in the program. So my daughter has run it, my older daughters have run it, so it's a little bit more than $120 or so to do the program for the season.
160.
160. I must be getting a discount.
We provide, this is amazing because, as Jill mentioned, no one's turned it away, and more, the amount has gone up more. So this season alone, we gave $20,000 in scholarships. So per year, we give almost $40,000 to any girl that wants to participate in Union County. That's where all the funding goes. We even helps provide shoes. So if they aren't able to have sneakers, we provide them sneakers. So everything comes right out of our bucket. So we are super thankful to the town, for Jill. Steve started this, Mayor Steve, way back when, I think Tripp and Elise presented us a check with, I think, $5,000. So you can see what Jill has done over the year in the town along as well.
And the sponsors.
And the sponsors.
No about helping Connolly Orthodontics. Thank you, everybody.
And Bonnie, as I understand it, you're going to work with the town on a nice little donation of
Yes.
some
So
amenity?
Yes, thank you. And also, Jill, we brought a bunch of medals up here, so to hand out to everybody. They did a new design for everyone, so we've got medals, and we brought enough for if anybody would like them. So this is the new design with the shoe, so please help yourself. But Girls on the Run would like to do something back to the town of Waxhaw, and so we would like to do a donation and figure out what exactly we need. I think you said we work with Deanna or whatever works with you, and just do a little thank you from all of us for the years. So thank you.
So thank you. Matt, you're back up.
I also want to take this opportunity to introduce some new employees. We've been able to fill 2 open positions in the planning department, and we're very excited about that. In no particular order, we have Madison Miller. He comes to us fresh out of UNC's master's program for public administration. I hired him right after he said he wanted to be a town manager, because I couldn't think of a better place to start than right here. And so we're excited to have him.
I'm Madison. I'm super excited to be here. I've loved local government through grad school, and now I'm happy I get to use my education for it. So thank you very much.
And then behind him is Max Shang, and he's filling in the position that our previous Max with 2 X's left. We've gotten more efficient. We're down to 1 X in Max, and he's our GIS planner, and we're excited to have him. We're already putting him to work for Maps I owe you guys.
I get the mic. Okay. Hey, I'm Max. I'm really grateful for you to have, I can't even talk. I didn't prepare anything, but thank you for having me.
And then because I love the limelight, I'm still here. Also want to let everybody know that Lisa McCarter left the position as Planning and Zoning Administrator, and in the interim, we've given all those duties to Alex, and she's graciously accepted them. Alex Beasting, and she's already taken on this role temporarily, so we knew she could do it, and we're excited to have her while we move forward to fill these other positions.
And since you like the limelight, you're the first item under old business. Torrey Path Rail Crossing Interim Safety Improvement Project.
All right. So I am very pleased to be able to bring this information before the board and the town. It really is a culmination of a couple years of effort on a lot of stakeholders' parts, and it really provides a necessary piece of the puzzle to our Western Waxhaw transportation plans that at this time we're really kind of up in the air. And I do have with us tonight Brian Gackstetter from NCDOT Rail Division and Brett Knight from NCDOT Division 10 to help with any questions that I might not be able to answer on our behalf. So briefly, I'll give some background on the initial issues with the railroad crossing closures, how they relate to the Millbridge Master Plan and their TIA that the town entered into. New developments from CSX concerning their rail siding program. That leads into the real crux of the issue, which culminates in a white paper and a memorandum of understanding that is really at the heart of the matter. Finally, provide some conclusions and offer an opportunity for questions, because there's a lot of content, a lot of complex interactions involved, and so I don't expect that the report's really going to answer all of those. It's really just to highlight, I think, the main points and bring them out for everybody to kind of take in and then make decisions from. And then ultimately, if possible, maybe make a motion to approve Greg to execute the MOU on the town's behalf. So it started in 2016 when we got a notification from the NCDOT Rail Division that they wanted to close 3 of the crossings in Western Waxhaw, specifically Hancock Road, Torrey Path, and Helms Road. And again, their intent was to alleviate the congestion and the issues with block crossings, and certainly anytime you eliminate a crossing, you increase safety just by its very nature. So in June of 2017, DOT Rail Division had a public meeting here in Waxhaw, and where they met with residents specifically regarding the Torrey Path closure to get input and kind of put this out into the public. And I think the residents were certainly concerned, and even Steve from that wrote a letter with the board's consensus and sent it to the DOT Rail Division, stating that we really needed more time to take in these issues and really craft how this should be handled, because it was too much too soon. They came in pretty quickly because Hancock Road was a private road, and they closed that pretty much immediately. And that surprised a lot of people, and I think once they heard about Torrey Path, they got just as concerned. And we are aware at this time that there had been one issue with a train blocking Torrey Path, and emergency responders were called to a home on that road, and they could not get to them. So that we're keenly aware that there is a safety issue right now, and really a need in the future to do something about it. And I think everybody is frustrated when the train stops for its own operations and the town is kind of stuck until everything clears. In addition to those concerns, Millbridge, when it was originally approved with its master plan, had at least 2 main connections to NC 75. One was a main entrance to Millbridge Parkway, where Hancock Road had been, and then ultimately another connection at Torrey Path as well. And this was borne out in the TIA, which both DOT and the town approved, and had an agreement with the developer that these things were entitled. So basically, when they announced these plans, this was in direct conflict with our planning and with the developer's plan, and really was a major cause of concern for how we were going to get connectivity for these number of houses in the southern portion of Millbridge. And so that leaves Torrey Path as the only means and really high on our priorities to find a solution that was amenable to everybody. So then earlier this year, CSX came to the state and initiated a strategic planning effort to realize corridor improvements across the region from Wilmington through Union County and beyond. Its intent is to provide a major economic benefit to increase their operations, increase the length of trains and the amount of goods that can be managed without their operations suffering. So locally, this means that they wanted to increase the siding they currently have here, and the one that we have currently stops just short of Church Street. It will not go any further in the eastern direction, but their intent is to extend it further into South Carolina and operate that siding as a means to keep trains from not blocking our main downtown Broome Street and Church Street crossings. What this really means to us is that in order for them to realize what they want to do, it really initiated the ability of NCDOT Rail to partner with them, come in with full funding to provide an interim connection to Torrey Path and Helms Road, a new crossing that the town doesn't have to pay for, that provides a safety realization for the residents living there and the future Millbridge residents, and then ultimately culminates in the overpass. The grade separated crossing will also be planned for and prioritized through NCDOT Rail and NCDOT Division resources. And again, this was only kind of speculated initially, but at this point we've been able to realize that, and that's all tied into the MOU and the white paper. So again, the stakeholders throughout this process have been NCDOT Division 10, the Rail Division, CSX, the Town of Waxhaw, Union County, and the developer of Millbridge, which is Landover. And at the end of all this, we all realized we needed a document in place that really clearly outlined the roles and the responsibilities, what the expectations were, what the funding would be, and what the schedule would be. And so that's what we bring before you tonight. So the white paper talks about two different phases, and I've got it here, both in big print for us we can look at later. It's also in the back of this document for question and answers we can really hone in on. But specifically, phase one talks about just an interim connection between Torrey Path and Helms Road right here. And there's two alternatives on the table right now. One of them contemplates land that Landover already has and can easily be provided as right-of-way. The other one, while it's shorter and maybe makes a little more sense in a logistical sense, it has a lot more impacts to existing properties in the CSX right-of-way that likely in the environmental review process are going to come up as issues. And so right now it's too early to tell, but both of these are funded with the amount of money. Either alternative is funded with the amount of money that DOT is already providing. So again, the specifics here are one uses land from Landover, the other does not. Either alternative will also make improvements to Helms Road and a new crossing that is completely new and up to standards, where both of those are kind of really not safe by any definition of current standards. Again, the key to what the town's really deciding on is that Landover is going to be asked to provide an interim gate until this road is completed. So Millbridge can connect to Torrey Path, have a gate in between, and then emergency access is the only one who will use that gate. And if there's a train blocking the access from 75, emergency responders can come through Millbridge, use the access gate, and get to those existing residences. If the train is not blocking, then emergency responders, if it helps their response times, can come up through Torrey Path and get to the southern portion of Millbridge. So in that respect, we're really meeting the safety goals with that with that change of providing the gate. So phase 2 considers additional alignments, and there are about 4 of them shown here. Got a green and a yellow and then a red and a white, and basically they just differ in how they come across and tie into 75. Again, they're not funded here, but basically at the same time as they're proceeding with the interim phase 1, they will begin the prioritization for state funding and possibly federal funding under different grants to try and get these improvements in a timeline that is faster than we're currently on, because we're currently not on a timeline. So again, specifically to the gate, this is the proposed phases that are entitled, and this was the original connection to be made to the existing residents and across the tracks to 75. The gate will be approximately here, again, so emergency responders can access either side based on the conditions of the train stoppages. Again, the residents themselves will not be given those access codes. They don't really want new traffic one to come across the crossing that really wasn't designed for it. Again, once the interim safety road is created, that connection to Helms and then across in a new position, that gate will be removed. The Torrey Path connection and crossing will be closed. The original Helms Road crossing will be closed, and they'll both be served by this road and the new crossing until ultimately the grade separation is in place, and once that's open, they will eliminate that road as well. So in line with the memorandum, the DOT will hold a public meeting in January to bring their phase 1 alternatives to the public. That then, with their permission then, or approval, paves the way to start the environmental process, the National Environmental Policy Act document, where they will vet what alternatives can be built. That will lead them to what right-of-way that will be selected, and finally culminate in construction documents, and ideally construction would start in mid-2020 and ideally be done 2021, worst case 2022. That schedule is really in line with the completed build-out of Millbridge's phases. So when their occupancies really start to take place is going to line up with when this new interim road will be in. And so there shouldn't be, ideally, a lot of conflict between the amount of residents there and the need to get across in that location. And that's why it just made a lot of sense between all the stakeholders. It solved all the problems really that were at the table, and is really why we support the memorandum and the white paper and all the information that it engenders. Again, in line with phase 1, phase 2 will begin where they'll use DOT resources to follow the national and state funding processes to get what is a $27 million project funded. And I did fail to mention, this is the interim road is a $4 million project, and that's currently already funded. No town funds are being utilized to realize that project. And so phase 2, again, is at this point a $27 million project that will be programmed through the state. CRTPO, possibly a federal grant is also open because of the rail connection. That really fills in some blanks that we currently aren't even in the process to. So those dates, while they're far off, are closer than anything we currently could speculate about. So specific to the Memorandum of Understanding, it's basically just a planning level document that helps tie the specific goals that are explained in the white paper to all the stakeholders' roles and their responsibilities. The town basically has to approve the installation of the gate because it's not part of the original entitlement of Millbridge. Millbridge has to agree to build the gate and then take it down. The state agrees to build the interim road and fund the flyover or the at-grade separation crossing. So, and again, all of these things will come forward in more specific and binding agreements that I'll bring before you at each time when these contractual obligations are really time to be executed in a more traditional legal environment. And so for tonight, we're just looking for possibly a motion to allow the town manager to execute on the town's behalf. Right now, the MOU is still in draft because CSX is not fully signed off on it. Should there be any major changes, we would fully expect to bring them back if we think they're out of line with what we're discussing here tonight. So again, to kind of wrap up the technical side, staff supports the MOU. It does initiate the funding for an interim solution that meets our safety concerns. It meets our access concerns. It does it on a timeline that really lines up with our occupancy needs as they've been put forward with Millbridge. And at this point, I can open the floor up and take all your questions.
Any questions?
Explain to me again, you're asking us tonight to approve the MOU, but you're saying the MOU isn't completed? Or?
Right, and so the draft was given to you. I don't expect that it should change, and I don't know if we've got any new developments on that.
As of right now, we don't. We have comments back, but we're still under.
Okay. Right. And so basically, it's approving the ability of Greg to execute it when it is finalized. We're certainly not going to approve a document that's not fully vetted.
Why would we then, just for my understanding, why would we then not wait until it is finished and fully vetted?
Basically, we're getting it out in the public so that we have the time, because the DOT wants to get this moving along as quickly as possible because of how long it's going to take to begin and finish. Again, I think we've found that the more information that gets out to the public, the sooner, the more we're able to, address concerns and kind of make sure everybody's comfortable with it before we make a move that's too fast. And so we want to get the information out.
Which is why you need Greg authorized to do that. Is that what you're saying?
Sure.
And the other part of that is with 4 parties, each one of us have to approve it as is. And so we need to take that step,
Sure.
right?
Absolutely, and that's kind of been put to us. Again, we've been fortunate that DOT Rail and CSX has really worked with us in our concerns, and so we're acting in good faith to bring this forward with you, so that kind of solidifies their stance and gives them confidence to move forward with what they've done, because they've really done a lot in providing this money and going to this extent.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Commissioner Burrow?
It's not a question so much as a comment. As I listened to you tonight, I remember the meeting that was held for Torrey Path. It's come a long way. I think you've handled it extremely well. I just was relaxing as I was listening to the complexity becoming simplified. So with that in mind, I'm usually not one to want to grant sweeping authority, but I'm confident enough in what you have done to take a leap that you will continue to do that, and I would be in favor of approving that, document.
So would you like to make the motion?
I will make the motion. And what is it I'm doing?
You'd like to make a motion to authorize the town manager
Town manager to execute the memorandum of understanding as presented.
And just for clarity, that's a memorandum of understanding between CSX, Landover, the town of Waxhaw, and NCDOT, correct? Correct. Yeah. Okay.
And NCDOT Rail Division.
NCDOT Rail Division, so that's the full context. So we have a motion on the table. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. And I'll be back.
Give you a break. Okay, action on facade improvement grant request at 301 North Broome Street. Lindsay Small. Welcome.
Made it understandable.
How are you doing tonight?
Well, how are you? I'll give my boss a break since he's been up here a lot. All right, good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you for your time tonight. Again, tonight is a presentation regarding a series of facade requests at 301 North Broad Street. So staff has received 4 facade improvement grant requests for the property located at 301 North Broad Street. For context, this home was constructed in 1922 during the facade program's period of residential significance. Just as further clarification, each facade application requires a separate application series of motions, as we have discussed at some previous meetings. Just a very brief program overview. Again, the facade program will allow for up to a 50% matching grant for reimbursement for the cost of rehabilitation or site work at a particular location. Further, the work begins on the site. The program does allow for up to a 2-month administrative extension if the work cannot be completed by the date of approval by the board, and there's some further clarification language about if the work cannot be completed within the time period for administrative extension for them to come back to the board for further review. So specifically about tonight's request at 301 North Broad Street, the scope of the proposed work is generally for repairing and reglazing of the site, as well as the removal of some storm windows that do not fit securely on the site. They also are requesting to do some light sanding and light scraping of windows and casings that need some refinishing, as well as a little bit of painting on site of previously painted surfaces for the window casings, sashes, and sills. And their intent is to keep in line with the paint scheme that makes the home look more like its original construction of 1922, so nothing drastic in that regard. Again, as the program requires separate applications for each of the facades, the applicant has been compliant with that request. This is just a little chart showing the contrast between the 2 quotes, as we require them to submit quotes from 2 contractors as part of the program. And staff is in support of this request, finding that it is in keeping with the Waxhaw Historic Landmark Guidelines, as well as the requirements of the Unified Development Ordinance for all 4 facades. The Historic Preservation Commission was in support of this at their November meeting for the request as presented in your packet for up to 50% of the higher quote. And with that in mind, staff would recommend, approval, obviously, and we have a series of requested actions per facade for your consideration. And we're available for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Comments?
Quick one.
Commissioner Burrow.
After the last facade grant approval, just a quick question. I'm sure you used the same rigor in examining this as you did with that.
Correct, yeah. So prior to the submittal of the application, there is a pre-submittal meeting that we requested the applicants. So we do go pretty thoroughly through getting some more context about the site, seeing its compliance or not with the design guidelines. So this went through all the same metrics that the previous ones were required to do.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I have a question.
Commissioner Stewart Burns?
Of the last 4 that we did, where are we with the 50,000?
Yep.
With this one?
So at the October 9th meeting, with the 12 requests, we came to a sum of $29,420.61, which leaves us $20,579.39 left in the facade fund. So we've got a good bit of that.
And this one is not to, total not to exceed $3,072?
Correct, yeah. If we go up to the 50% of the highest.
Other questions? What would you like to do with it?
Start with the motions.
That would be a good place to start, and you have 4 of them to go through.
Okay.
And you can find them on page 80 and 81 if you want to look at them.
Yeah, so just as a point of clarification, since we would do motions on all 4 facades, we just recommend choosing one of the 3. And if you are comfortable doing the motions that were previously done at the WHBC, you can do so or amend them as you see fit.
I'd like to make the motion to approve FIP 008-006-2018 for grant funding up to 50% of the actual cost of the work, not to exceed.
Yep. So if we go with 50% of the highest quote, that would be $382.50.
Okay. that's fine.
So we have a motion to approve not to exceed $382.50.
Which, for clarification, for the record, is 50%
Right.
of the highest quote.
Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next one.
The next motion to approve FIP 008007-2018 for grant funding up to 50% of the actual cost of work not to exceed.
$1,037.50. A motion on the table. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 To make the motion to approve FIP-008-008-2018 for grant funding up to 50% of the actual cost of the work not to exceed.
$856. Have a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. I'd like to make the motion to approve FIP-008-009-2018 for grant funding up to 50% of the actual cost of the work not to exceed.
$796. Got a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
There you have it.
Okay.
Ayes have it.
Thank you.
All the way across, 5-0. Thank you very much. Next up, Lisa White, Waxhaw Police Department Carbine Project Grant.
Good evening. This is a two-part. I'll let the chief tell you about the grant first, I suppose.
So this was a grant that we put in for several years ago. In about a year or so, we got approved for it, but when the new administration in DC took the current reins, they put a hold on all the funds, and we've just recently been approved for those funds. This is a 100% grant. We have to front the money at first, and then they reimburse us, and it'll provide a patrol rifle for all of our patrol officers that are on patrol. In the climate that we're in, where we got so many active shooters going on in the schools and everything, we just don't want to be outgunned. And this was a grant that was available to us that we can outfit the officers and not cost the town any money. So that's where we're at.
Any questions for Chief?
Right, so that part would just be to approve the grant, the grant award, and then the other part is just to approve the budget amendment, which creates a revenue and expense line matching $24,500.
Okay, so this is federal grant, no required grant match from the town. I'd be happy to entertain action on this. Two motions.
Motion to approve capital grant project ordinance 2018027, amending the established multi-year police grant project fund with the budget appropriation of $24,500.
We have a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion to approve the grant awarded by the Governor's Crime Commission to the town of Waxhaw Police Department for subrecipient grant funding.
We have a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, Lisa. Parking improvement budget amendment. This is a combination. Lisa, are you going to explain that document picture there?
I'm going to get help for that one, too. I'll let Matt.
I remembered how to get up here. So specifically, just to outline, and don't know if I can get it to show up on the screen a little better for everybody. Church Street, at the intersection of McDonald Street, there's an opportunity to.
We all have
Okay.
the picture on
All right.
in front of us, too.
Okay. So there's an opportunity to provide additional parking for the downtown area. Okay, there you go. In the form of some 45-degree angle parking. We can get 6 spaces, including 1 handicap space on what is now the shoulder adjacent to that side of the parking lot for the Nivens Price Building. We've got 2 quotes. One quote, the low quote is $16,000. It's a reasonable number, in my opinion, for the small scope of paving work, because it does involve a lot of expensive equipment and labor. So if we want to realize a quick turnaround in some additional spaces, this is an opportunity to do it. The contractor can get this done really as soon as the weather cooperates, maybe January or February ideally. It's really an economic development piece. It's not really a street maintenance item. It really has to be viewed through the context of the value, and generally one parking space is valued at about $17,000 a year in revenue for a business district similar to ours. And so from that standpoint, it really provides a value beyond the initial cost. So again, the plan is in place and we're ready to move on it with your approval.
Any questions for Matt?
I have a question. Well, it's
Commissioner Lee.
actually probably more for Lisa. What I'm wondering is why this is recommended to come from the rental fund as opposed to the vehicle tax that we.
Well, because the vehicle tax, if you remember, one of the priorities of the board was to help with traffic congestion, and this we didn't feel was a traffic congestion issue. This is more, as Matt said, an economic development issue, and that building that we own is going to be serviced by these parking spots. So it is something that that fund has about $200,000 of fund balance available, and this aids that building and the tenants in that building and any future use of that building. So we felt like that was the correct place. There's other projects already queued up that Matt's going to give you some transportation update that's going to be used for the $25 small transportation projects.
Well, if we approve those projects.
Yes.
Yes, we haven't been asked about that yet. So if this money is not taken from the rental fund balance, what does that money get used for? I mean, what is the purpose of that fund balance?
That fund balance is to provide whatever's needed in that, for that building, that parking lot, the properties that we own.
Okay.
Which we felt like this was adjacent to that property. Those parking spots are going to service that property, and so then it was right that that property would pay for those spots.
Okay.
There's no other planned use of that money.
Okay.
The rental fund has made money every year that we've owned it, and there really hasn't been a large use of the money. It's just accumulating.
Okay. And we're talking about the grassy area, right?
Right, correct.
Okay.
It's just a ditch section right now.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Just a comment. I'd like to encourage you to continue to be creative and find places where those funds can benefit the downtown. I mean, we're working on a TAP grant. Maybe some of that money can be used in front of that building to get rid of the two-step curb and things of that sort. So please, this is a good start. I'm happy to see it. Thank you.
Just a point, and I probably am the Lone Ranger on this. I respectfully disagree in that in the May budget meeting, we talked about the vehicle fee being used for small projects. So we have some clarity to provide to the community on how we communicate that going forward. The reality is we have monies available to work on infrastructure projects, which is the key part. So where it comes from is we'll take your leadership on that, but I think we have to be clear on the STP fund and the vehicle fee, because the way we presented it in May was not just congestion, it was tactical projects, but just a point of clarity. So what do we want to do with this?
I have one question.
Commissioner Burns.
When you said that there were $200,000 in that fund.
Roughly.
So what are the plans for that $200,000 if you're saying that it doesn't exactly come from the vehicle fee, but it's only fair that that building take care of this project, then where are those funds that are accumulating all of this? What are we going to use those?
Where are the funds that are accumulating for the rental fund? Well, it's inside the rental fund, and it's pretty much earmarked for anything related to that building or the adjacent property that we own. And it's it's up to you all what you want to use that for. Right now, it's being used just for maintenance of the building. We've gotten the building appraised recently. We paid for that appraisal out of that building fund.
I understand that, but I'm saying it's accumulating and we're not using it. Is it only to be used for that building and the surrounding area? Otherwise, we don't use it at all?
That's been the practice. You all can change that if you wished. You could use it for whatever you wanted to.
Or we could return it to the general, to the unrestricted.
You could.
Yeah.
If you wanted to, you could have that. But, I mean, you know, it's been 5 years accumulating, so it's not a large amount every year.
Right.
So it's not going to accomplish much. It kind of is accomplishing something here. Providing $16,000 is something we could not have provided for out of the general fund. So if you had transferred it over to the general fund and appropriated it for something else, then we wouldn't have this pot of money to do a good project.
And these buildings are old. There could conceivably be at any time something structurally that occurs, and we would need money quickly to be able to put back into them.
That's true. It's always a good idea to have a contingency for maintenance, because, you know, if the roof needed repair or something, then we own the building, we'd have to fix it.
Yeah, I think last year the water heater went and some plumbing issues came up, et cetera. So something always comes up as a Commissioner Burrow.
All I was going to say is, as the two department chiefs, what are your recommendations? I don't think mine are very germane. I'm not on the ground knowing what's in the building, what condition the building's in, what the parking's like. I would leave those recommendations to you. If you've got a good idea, let's hear it.
Absolutely. And this one is right in line, I believe.
So since you like to take their advice, would you like to make the motion?
Okay. I'll make the motion to approve the budget amendment for the rental fund for $16,000 as presented.
So we have a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, guys have it, 5-0. Thank you.
Steve?
Just a note there, if the board would recall, the ULI study that took place earlier this year has a report that'll be coming forward for your review later this month, and really basically for review in January. One of the discussion points that's been talked about is whether a development agreement would be a tool to utilize to sell the building to the private sector. And if so, that tool requires that the town make some sort of contribution. So it's not a one-sided agreement, and there is a requirement that the town provide something as part of that agreement. It is likely that there would be some sort of enhancements to parking associated with the building, whether it's short-term enhancements or long-term enhancements to that parking lot. So those funds, we would recommend be kept on hand, allocated and reserved as they currently are, because they were associated with the building, not just as an emergency fund for roof leaks or any other sort of issues, but in the event that the town board wishes to dispose of the property through a development agreement, you have the flexibility to make improvements to the parking lot, to sidewalks, to the area in front of the building, and frankly, maybe off-site, depending upon the boundaries that are drawn with the development agreement, because the development agreement can actually cross the street. It could include lots that we don't traditionally associate just with that corner. So if there are things that occur that would facilitate the sale of the property, that certainly would start to become eligible too, depending on the boundary.
Thank you. That's good input. Thank you. You're excused now, man.
I'm not trying. I will just sit here.
No more. All right, we have nobody signed up for general public comments. Now let's go to reports. We'll start with Manager Ferguson, the town leadership report.
Got a couple tonight, and I'm going to call on Dina first for really a couple Parks and Recreation update items. And then Matt's going to make another appearance as well.
Good evening. All right, I'm going to go over a couple updates for Park and Rec. I wanted to give you an update on our the Nesbitt restroom, concession, and storage building. We're in the final stages, which is very exciting. We have to do some cleanup on the outside. We've got the electrical and the plumbing, and the fixtures are going in. So we're at the home stretch. So we're really excited about this project. Also, we're finishing up with our grant project. Bless you. And we're putting the footings in now. We're putting the second set of footings in actually tomorrow. And the cantilevers are coming in. One set will go in this week, another set will go in the next. And then we'll put in the river rock and our planting. By the end of next week, the 21st, we should be all done, just in time to report back for the grant. And this is going to be a wonderful addition to the skate park. Then we are finishing up with our master plan. I wanted just to give you a quick little update. We have been collecting all the data, and with that, it's just taken us because of so much input that we've got from the public, we just want to go through it and make sure we have everything collected properly and put into the document, nice, good graphs and easy to read. So we're going to finish up that and get a draft to y'all and the Park and Rec Committee before bringing it to a work session, so y'all can kind of go over it and get some questions together, and then we can answer those questions and bring it back to y'all at the end of January for a work session meeting, and then hopefully get it approved and start checking off things. So I'm really excited about that. I also want to give you a quick update about Town Creek. We are getting a playground inspection done on the playground. The slides are in, thank goodness. But I just wanted to make sure for insurance reasons and just make sure for my peace of mind everything is cool. So we're finishing up with that. And then we will open, we'll have a grand opening for that park. Also, we've got wonderful partnerships with that park as well. Lowe's in Waxhaw is helping us finish out the river rock path and plantings. We have 2 Boy Scout projects that are helping us out too. One is doing a butterfly and sensory walk, which I'm really cool. It's really awesome. And then also bringing in 2 benches with arbors. So it's going to be a wonderful little pocket park, and I'm really excited about that. Upcoming events this week, we are doing Santa's Ride Through the Neighborhood. I am lucky enough to go with Santa tomorrow night, so I'm excited about that. And we'll finish that out on Friday. And then this Saturday is our Wreaths Across America, which I encourage everyone to come out to. It's a beautiful ceremony, and it starts at 12 at our cemetery. Of course, please look at social media for updates because of weather or any closures or just delays for any of the parks and events. I appreciate it. Any questions?
Just a comment.
Yes, sir.
Job well done. I mean, you guys did a phenomenal job over the last couple of weeks. You faced some unprecedented crying from Mother Nature. You handled it well professionally. I know not everybody was happy with whatever decision you made, but job well done. So thank you, and thank you to the whole team.
Thank you.
Any other questions for? Some people in Prescott want to know if they can have that orange fencing just as a souvenir.
Oh my goodness. Sure, we can
That came from Rob, just so you know.
We can make an art project out of it. How about that?
Yeah. That came personally from Rob. Next up.
Matt's going to have an update on transportation.
I promise this is the last time.
Promises.
Right. So just to touch on some projects that maybe have been out of the spotlight and keep everybody on the same page. The first one is Kensington and Providence, the improvements. Initially, this was specifically just a town project, but the opportunity came up to get additional state funding through the CRTPO. So we got that, and it was awarded. And now we're just waiting for the state to engage in the municipal agreement that then gives us the opportunity to start billing the project again. Once that's done, we'll go from 70% complete to 90%, send everything through right-of-way at the state level, do our own right-of-way acquisitions, and that paves the way for construction. And we're hoping, again, late 2019, early 2020 to start breaking ground on those improvements at the intersection and all the way through to Sunset Hill and beyond.
And the parking changes at Harris Teeter in anticipation of that, in essence.
Right.
Yeah.
We're eliminating those.
There's a lot of chatter out there, like some big building's going to go up there.
Okay, you mean the additional private spot?
Right.
Right. Okay, yeah, it's just purely additional parking, that's all. And that's in that grass location right there. So Kensington, at Providence, I should read Kensington at Waxhaw Marvin. That's on me. Did this afternoon. So this is where the contractor for Millbridge, this is an improvement required by their TIA, and they've gotten through design and they're engaging in right away right now. Ultimately, it will add turn lanes to this intersection and provide some capacity that's sorely needed. They anticipate they're receiving good right-of-way response, so we anticipate they'll be able to break ground in January and have this completed ideally in June of 2019. And then that leads right into the Morehouse Drive turn lane. Again, this is one that's proposed to be funded by the vehicle fee. Right now, we've got the developer for Lindsay Meadows to agree to lay out the design as part of their improvement project, and it's under design review right now. They will complete the cost estimate and provide that to us and let us know what the expected cost will be, and then we'll bring it forward for your approval to then engage them in an agreement where they'll construct it as part of their project and do the turn lane on the town's behalf at that time. Their estimated construction is mid-2019. Ideally, we wouldn't want to engage the improvements here until Kensington Waxhaw Marvin intersection is already in place. Just a quick one on the Gray Bottom stoplight. That's part of the state's high hazard project, and they're still on schedule at this point to complete the stoplight installation and the turn lane there summer of 2019. Our own town paving, we're estimating our quantities right now and expect to put a bid together the beginning of next year for completion spring before the fiscal year ends.
So I'm getting questions about potholes.
Okay.
How should they contact the town? How would you like them to come?
Yeah, there should be, if you go on the web page, there is
steer them to the web page.
Sure, there's a spot there where you can specifically provide fill out a form with all the information, and it goes directly to public services. Generally, what we try and do is get enough sizable ones where we can have a firm come in and take down a sizable quantity. If not, we can do temporary patches, but they're cold patches. They don't last long. They're expensive, and it's not ideal. You know, in the near future, when we get enough of them, you know, it's kind of hard to decide when do you start spending enough money to get that equipment on site to respond, and we're not quite there yet, but in the future we'll certainly be contemplating being able to do it hot mix ourselves. The Waxhaw Marvin corridor study is completed. I believe we sent it out tonight for you guys, and I'll be presenting it to the planning board next Monday. Hopefully they will approve the content and recommend bringing it to the board for adoption. And what that will do is then enable us to use that document in any number of scenarios to help get funding for the improvements that it recommends in moving that corridor into the future.
And just taking a quick look at it before the meeting, there's some significant expenses there, that cost expenses in there.
Yeah, I mean it's a long stretch. There's a lot going on, and so it's it's a valuable document.
Yeah.
What we get out of it is far going to exceed what we put into it. And finally, the Waxhaw Marvin Bridge replacement. DOT Bridge Division proposes construction in 2022. A lot of the content of the corridor study is really going to be the supporting document for our recommendations of what we think that design needs to entail in terms of bike ped and also laneage. And so once that's kind of finalized, then I'll re-engage the division to try and get what we think the bridge needs to do. Because right now, I don't think it's doing that. But they're kind of between the hurricanes and things like that, they haven't really been able to really be as responsive as I think anybody would have liked. And I think that does it for me, if you can believe that. Any questions in general?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd just like to note what Matt described is months and months of effort to get those kind of teed up, and so those projects are all moving ahead. The intersection project at Kensington and Waxhaw Marvin, what he didn't really say is that the four quadrants really have to be looked at together.
Yeah.
And so no quadrant will be built or evaluated for future construction without trying to determine what's happening in all four quadrants. I know there's interest in seeing that particular intersection improved, sidewalks, but the planning process involves looking at who the parties are that would provide funding for those four quadrants, the timing and timeframes for those, and then some sort of construction timeline. So they're actively doing that, but the first part of it really is that intersection improvement that Landover's working on right now, and it's really a phased approach. We'll come back to you as we know more about that, but it's really laying that out and then sitting down with all the parties to work on it.
Oh, it's a great piece of work. Thank you.
That's all.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Burns? Commissioner Lee?
Yeah, I just think it's really wonderful that we're getting that money from CRTPO to help with Kensington. I think that's really wonderful that that's happening. And since we didn't have the parade and I didn't get a chance to say it earlier, I hope everyone in town has a warm, safe, happy holiday season, Merry Christmas, and a blessed New Year.
So I want to know why you dropped cookies off at the police department, public works, park and rec, and town hall, and you didn't bring any, and fire department, you didn't bring anything for the board.
I'm all baked out.
Oh, okay. Commissioner Burrow?
No comments tonight.
Commissioner Westlake?
I just want to remind the citizens about the Union County Public Library survey that's on their website. There was a meeting here last week for input from citizens of what you'd like to see in the library. There was, I think, over 100 people turned out, 3 times as many as there were at the other 2 town meetings. So we showed up in force and gave some great input. And so all you have to do is go to the Union County Public Library website. There is a link at the top of the text box in red, and just go there and fill out the survey and give your input what you'd like to see in the library.
Mayor Pro Tem McMillan.
Just want to say happy and blessed holiday to everyone here and to everyone listening in the town of Waxhaw.
Thank you. I'll wrap with a couple things. First of all, I agree with Commissioner Lee on the more importantly, the hard work that has been done by the staff to make a presence at CRTPO, specifically at the technical level, educating them on not only our needs, but on the technical complexity of what we're dealing with. They've done a remarkable job. All of those things total well into over $100 million in funding when you take 16, Graybar, the rail project, et cetera. And so that's a 3+ year effort. So can't say enough about the staff and the work they do on that. Commissioner Burrow, myself, and Manager Ferguson had the opportunity to go up to the League, North Carolina League of Municipalities Advocacy's Goals Conference, which is basically prioritizing policy that we want represented for all municipalities at the State House for the next 2 years. And over the course of a day, we narrowed down 36 goals. It was to get down to 15, but the last one tied, there were 3 of them that were tied for last place, so we landed with 17. The comment I want to make about it, I mean, it's included transportation funding, strong focus on broadband, funding for Main Street and historic preservation tax credits, something that's going to be near and dear to the town of Waxhaw, monies for stormwater. As we go through our census, we'll have to start facing those things. And for the first time, a direct statement to oppose legislation that incurs the cost of development on the citizens versus the developers. There's really a strong focus on that. What I want to comment on, though, was the process. You had 100+ municipalities, 250+ elected officials, and not once did it get personal. It was a very positive, respectful, issues-driven conversation, not personal and agenda-driven. And it was a lesson. I wish they had videotaped it, because it was a lesson that all municipalities across the state could learn from. With that, I have nothing else, and I would be happy to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Merry Christmas, everybody.